What's up, guys? Today's video is going to be talking about spending quiet time with God and spending some alone time with Him, not just, hammering the days out one after another, just no stop, just banging, through the way the world works. Every once in a while in my life, I get and stay so busy that I never think about that I should take off, a little bit of time and spend it with God. And take a break and remember that Jesus is Jesus and Jesus is good and that He's awesome, and that He exists, and that He's around, and that He's living. Sometimes I get so caught up in the daily life that I just go, I'm busy and I'm busy and I'm busy and I'm working, and then I have family stuff, and then you have relationship stuff, and then you have friends stuff, and then you have school, work, church, whatever it is. All of it adds up, and you never sometimes take a breath to just go spend a little bit of quiet time with God. And I watched a video on the Sean Ryan with this, just came out just before the July 4th or whatever, and so this old Vietnam veteran, and the guy's talking about spending some quiet time to reconnect with God and how it helped him. And I had never thought about that stuff. I've spent so much of my time just staying busy, and I remember God, I don't forget Him or anything, but sometimes I don't really carve out a lot of time to just spend with Him. And so I thought, maybe I should try that. Maybe that's something I should think about. And so yesterday, I was out at work. I'm an airline pilot. I travel for a living. So I was at Atlantic City. I was working out of there, and I was staying at a casino hotel, the Tropicana out there, and I hate gambling. I can't stand it. I think it is a terrible thing. If you walk into the casino and think this is a nice place, you should immediately turn around and leave, because it's not nice, because they're handing out money to everyone in the world, right? They're taking money from poor people, people with addiction, stuff like that, and then they're giving it back to the rich. And then if you do win any money, like 50% of it goes to the government, which, to be honest, not to say that's a big deal. You're $1 richer per se than you were before, so, and your normal money's taxed like ridiculous, but alright, besides the fact, sorry, again, lost in the sauce. But what I'm saying is, I felt like I was in a bad, evil place. I just felt, sinful almost just being there. And I was just thinking about, like, man, maybe I should just go take a walk. And so my stupid self that I am, I went and walked around in the gym. I went to the gym, walked on the treadmill, and it was super nice. And then after like an hour and 3 miles, I was like, all right, let's go outside and walk. So I went and walked down the beach, and the boardwalk was super busy, but there wasn't a person. Felt like you were in the middle of a desert all alone out at the beach. There was no one around, and it was amazing. And so I walked and walked, went way down the coastline, then way back up, and it was amazing. I just spent some time, and I had my AirPods, I'm just listening to worship music. I just, turning it off a little bit and just walking in silence. How often do you spend alone with your thoughts, where, for me, I blast myself with noise all the time, podcasts, TV, other people, busyness, work, whatever, and it's like I never have a second to just take a break and think. And going out there gave me that little chance to just walk around and think, all on my own, by myself, just some quietness in my life, and it was super nice. I thoroughly enjoyed just sitting there and hearing nothing, just nothing. Sometimes it is so nice to just do nothing, and I don't know, I feel better. It's like I didn't even think very many thoughts, to be honest. I just kind of sat there, and then you can pray, you can read your Bible, listen to worship music, just dwell on God, keep your thoughts pure. And so long, I truly, admitting it, and not a great thing, but I haven't felt like I've been able to just dwell on God in a long time, where that's my only thoughts. I feel like I always have something else in my head or going on, or it's like, it's never just, sit back and relax and think about God. And I got to, and it was dark out, no one was around, it was kind of foggy, walk up and down the beach, and you could do this anywhere. You can do it in your neighborhood, you can do it in your apartments, you could do it walking in circles in your basement or whatever. Just go sit outside and spend some time with God. And it's nice, and it reconnects you a little bit, and it gives you some time to think. You know, life is just so busy, and God sometimes, even in my own personal life, gets pushed so far off to the side that I have a really hard time remembering him on occasions. You know, at work when things are busy, it's not like I forget about him per se. I'm always like thinking about him in some way, but it's like the peacefulness of God. It's not rushing through stuff, just dedicated time where you don't feel like you have anything to do or whatever, and you have a clear conscious mind that you can just sit there and dwell on God. And it was amazing, you know. It kind of helped me feel a lot better. And so I was like, you know what, make a video about it. There's not really a lot to talk about, but you know, life is just busy and it's hard, and sometimes you can't make time. You know, I went like over a month straight without a single day of like being able to rest, it seemed like. And even on my days off, when I start, you know, have a whole day to do nothing, it's like I always have something to do, or you know, someone's bored or whatever, and you gotta go do something. And then you're like, oh, I interrupted my rest. I literally wanted to sit on this couch all day long and just rest, you know, and take a break. And then you gotta go somewhere or whatever, and then who knows, I don't know. It's just, sometimes it's good to just spend some time on your own, by yourself, in quietness, you know. Just, I like to go outside. I don't know about you guys, you know, some people like to light candles and sit in a basement, and that weirds me out. You know, I'm like not doing a ritual, but some people, you know, like women a lot, I know, that's like something they like to do. Whatever else, you know, don't judge me, I'm leaving categories, you know, whatever. But all I'm saying is it's so amazing sometimes to just take a break, think about God, enjoy the peacefulness that he is. You know, God is so amazing. Think God's in nature, God's in this world, right? Think about just the top of the mountain all day long. You know, God's presence is everywhere, always. He's omnipotent, he knows everything. You know, if a single rock, I think, falls over, you know, single leaf falls off a tree, I feel like God knows about it for whatever reason. I don't know if that's entirely true, I guess, but I just feel like God knows. And it's like his presence is in the most utter chaos in the middle of a war, and out on the top of a mountain that out in the, you know, British Columbia, something that no one's been on in hundreds of thousands of years, if ever, or whatever. And it's so nice to just sometimes enjoy the peacefulness of who he is. Look at the world, look at nature, think about the middle of the ocean, out in the middle of nowhere, like just the quietness. God designed a peaceful, awesome, you know, beautiful, still and busy earth, kind of all in one, with storms and the quietness and beautiful sunsets, nice mornings with rainy evening. You know, just sit outside and just soak in the awesomeness of God. And then, like, other times it doesn't matter where you are, just sit out there and remember God is there and he's alive and he's real, and you can enjoy just being near to him, being close to him, enjoying, you know, who he is, or just silencing your own thoughts. It's, you know, self-care, as they so say. I am not a self-care person by any means. I feel like, you know, I feel weird even saying that word, but sometimes, you know, in the Bible, Jesus talks about how he goes out on his own and he gets away from people. You know, he does miracles all day or whatever, and then he goes out and he goes off to himself and he's on his own, and he just prays and gathers his thoughts, kind of, and he spends time with God. And Jesus is God, right? But he's God in the human form. They call him the Son of Man, which means God in human form, right? In case that ever something you didn't know. But it's like God just takes some time and he goes on his own after working and doing all this all day, and he rests. You know, God created the earth on the seventh day, he rests. And not that maybe God has to, because like in the Bible, God says like Sabbath is created for man, not the other way around, if I'm not way off on that. And you know, or Jesus says that. And you know, that means it's just talking about, you know, the stillness, the quietness, the peace. If God himself likes to do that, then it's a good thing, and you should do it too. Some people just bombard themselves so much with busyness and, you know, whatever, and they don't think to pray, they don't think to just dwell on God, spend some time in your mental space and a state of peace. And I have so much trouble with this, because sometimes I'll try to do it and I just have so many thoughts going through my head. I genuinely can't. And so switch it, you know, start reading the Bible, start listening to music, go drive around and listen to some worship music, go find some you like. I used to have a really hard time listening to worship music. Now it's like any music that's not makes me feel weird almost, in a way. It's like I could be doing something more productive almost, and I still enjoy it. Doesn't feel much different. That's coming from someone who, you know, went from Juice WRLD and Morgan Wallen to church music. And it wasn't a quick switch by any means, but it happened. But that stillness, that peace, the like amazingness of God. I mean, just look at the beautiful sunset. Just sit around. This is a beautiful night here. 75 degrees, calm air. It's nice, it's quiet, except for my screaming loud bike with no decibel killer in. And I'm just cruising around, you know, being grateful that God's given me another day to be alive. You know, another beautiful day to make a video talking about how awesome He is. And whether that's what you're doing today or whatever, you know, you could just go pray to God and just thank Him for being awesome. You could just go spend some time, you know, helping someone, do something to help someone. You know, it doesn't even have to be big. It could be as simple as making dinner for your parents, or cleaning the dishes, or putting away your laundry, or cleaning your room, or cleaning a bathroom. You know, Jesus got down and washed feet. You can do something for your parents who pay for all your stuff, or for your wife, or whatever it is. But all I'm saying is that, you know, make time for God, and it will draw you closer to Him. Sometimes, like in that time, I was just walking up and down the beach for like an hour or something in the quietness. It was nice to just, you know, feel at peace. I feel like I haven't been at like peace like that in a long time, and it like reset my clock per se, you know, and I just feel calmer and easier going, and I can like take a breath and think more than I could yesterday before I did that. And you know, don't be afraid to have to tell people, you know, you can't do something. You tell your wife or your parents or whatever, just be like, oh, I just want to go on a walk on my own so I can think a little bit, or this or that, and then go do it. You know, sometimes it's nice to be around other people, but other times it's really nice to just spend a little bit all on your own. Kind of a short video. Hopefully I didn't ramble about the same topic too much. There's a Rocket Bunny, Subaru FRS or BRZ, I can never remember which is which, but it's kind of neat. I see them around here all the time. Yeah, but that's it for today, guys, and hopefully you liked the video. Go take some time to just dwell on God and take the peace in of the awesomeness. You know, He made all of nature. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're in Kansas, go look at a beautiful sunset. If you're in New York, watch the sun go behind the trees. If you're in the middle of the woods in Minnesota, just sit down and enjoy the sounds of nature. I don't know. That's it for today. Leave any comments, questions. I'll make a video, respond to them for you, and that's it. See you guys.